Welcome to Tithe Lies, the place where you can get the biblical truth about tithes and offerings. My brothers and sisters, I am rebooting some of my old content, putting all of my tithing videos onto one channel. So some of this stuff is old. So grade me on the curve for the technology, okay? But the content is still on point.
Hi, I'm Eric, and I've written the book, What Preachers Never Tell You About Tithes and Offerings, the End of Clergy Manipulation and Extortion. Today's topic is 6 reasons tithe preachers hate financial freedom. Now, not financial freedom for them, but for us. They don't like us or don't want us to have the freedom to hear from God for ourselves. They like legalism, at least in this area. Okay, they will say they don't, but they want legalism. They want to know that they're going to get a certain amount of money every week. Okay, I'm taking these points directly from my book. The first one is it frees God's people to think for themselves. So if we have religious freedom in the area of our finances, we will be free to think for ourselves. This type of freedom is scary to a tithe preacher. Think about someone in an abusive relationship. The man abusing the woman, he doesn't want her to think for herself. The government who is oppressing its people, they don't want the people to think for themselves. You know, this dynamic runs across society all over the world. I look at this as oppression. The oppressor oppresses someone, and they don't want that person to have freedom because freedom is a direct threat to the benefits of that oppression. In this case, it's money. Second thing, it allows the Holy Spirit to directly instruct God's people when to give, how to give, and how much to give, and to whom to give. This again is a direct threat to guaranteed unqualified cash flow. And so if the Holy Spirit can tell you who to give to, that takes the religious middleman out of the equation. That means if the money no longer flows through the middleman, he or she can't take their cut. Now, I don't mean like they're stealing something from under the table. No, this is done in the open. This is simply how the system works. You want to bless somebody. You see someone with a need. And I like to use the example of a single mom with a few kids. She has an old jalopy of a car and it's ball tires. You can almost see the air through the rubber. Well, you see that and the Holy Spirit says, buy that lady some tires. So you say, okay, here's what I'll do. Because I haven't paid my tithes yet, I'll write this check out to the church, and then I'll hope that the church will do something about her tires. I've got news for you. Probably 99% of the time, that lady is not going to get any tires. Especially if she is not what the church calls a tither. Doesn't make a difference that she has 3 kids, she's struggling, her man left her, her husband dumped her for somebody. It doesn't make a difference. She's not a tither. She hasn't contributed to this ministry. For the most part, we're not giving her anything. Now that happens a lot. And you know it, don't you? Don't you pretend like you've never heard of this. Okay? Now, the other thing is, it requires religious professional middlemen to walk extremely close to the Lord. This is scary because preachers generally don't pray that much. Really. I mean, if you're talking about seeking God for hours and crying out to the Lord, looking at, the biblical examples of prophets, intercessors, Jesus, the apostles, or even looking back at those who have done great works for God, some of the great evangelists and missionaries of our time. Preachers aren't known for that, not here in America. They're not known for that. So, Preachers would have to stop hanging out at Starbucks, conferences, business meetings, watching television, playing golf, and doing whatever it is they do, and get on their faces before God and cry out to Him first for His plan. Once you get the plan, if you get one, what about His timing and His methodology? What if He tells you to go to work? Oh boy. Now, I'm not talking about working, going to visit somebody every now and again. I'm talking about going, sit in some cubicle, going to dig some ditch or doing something outside. Of course, we no longer believe that that is honorable. That's for people who are not in the what we call the full-time ministry. Those are for the part-timers who support those who are spiritual, those who are in the full-time ministry. I don't know how we ever, bought off on that lie. Here's another one. It places stringent qualifying criteria on financial appeals for buildings and salaries. Right now, there is no stringent qualifying criteria. The criteria is this. I'm the man of God. You do what I say. That's the bottom line. It may not come across as crude and as honest as that, but that truly is the content of the message. Don't you dare ask me any questions about what I do with this money. Now, for the most part, I must admit, that's mostly in the independent type churches where the pastor is the top dog. Nobody can say anything or question his or her authority. And I believe disproportionately this is rampant in black churches, because in the black churches, we just allow things to go on over and over and over. You know what? That's one of those preachers calling me right now. I am not going to answer. Tithe preacher is mad and calling me on the phone. Listen to him. Can you believe that? Well, news travel fast. Now, here's another one. It makes it harder for preachers to manipulate God's people into taking care of their ambitions and personal financial needs. Now, it makes it harder for preachers to manipulate. Now, I am not against worthy ministers, whether they're called pastors or not. Worthy ministers who labor in the word, who labor in taking care of God's church. Sometimes your labor is so intense that you can't do that and maintain a traditional job. These gifted people who live obviously selfless lives for the church, I believe we should support them. And I believe that's a New Testament principle. I believe it's a New Testament command. It's there in Timothy. Now, here's what is not a command. There is no amount given. And the moment a preacher puts pressure on you and say, look, I'm a man of God and I'm doing these great things for the church, you're supposed to support me. At that point, you have to wonder whether there is another spirit operating behind the scenes. Because if you are truly who you say you are, you should be crying out to God. You should be going to the Lord first and allow God to move upon the hearts of the people. Or at the very least, can you just be honest with people? Can you present your claims to them, your desires, and say, here's what I propose to do. Here's my track record. You all know me. Will you support me? Just be honest with people. Man, we don't have a problem with supporting someone who is really going out of their way to help the church. What we have a problem with is people trying to manipulate us and take scriptures out of context to take money out of our pockets, irrespective of what type of financial condition we are in. Okay, now, here's another, the last one. It forces preachers to be patient in their ambitions. And this is something that preachers have a hard time doing. They want to do it, and they want to do it now. Whatever it is, they want to do it now. And their ambitions, there's nothing constraining them. As long as they have people willing to give money without asking questions, they are going to dream up all kinds of projects. Some projects are good, some are bad. But it's always bad to manipulate and bribe people in the name of the Lord. Just a little something to make you think.